Cuba, the day of popular referendum for the approval of the new family code moves forward. Citizens from the age of 16 have the right to vote. In the Caribbean, tropical storm Ian advances and it could reach Category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale before hitting Cuba. Referendums on joining Russia in the self-proclaimed People's Republic of Donetsk and Lugansk, among other regions, continue despite bombing by the Ukrainian army. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news, and we do so in Cuba. The day of popular referendum for the approval of the new family code moved forward. Close to 200,000 people were called to participate in this process, which has the support of over 1,400 supervisors and some 28,000 collaborators. According to Alina Balseiro, president of the National Electoral Council, at least 224 polling stations were set up so that those who are away from their places of residence can cast their vote, while stressing that every citizen from the age of 16 have the right to vote. The authorities also claim that the referendum of the new family code will require a simple majority of 50% for its approval or rejection, with the final results to be announced on September 30th. Miguel Díaz-Canel, president of Cuba, exercised his right to vote in early hours of this morning. The president attended polling station number 3 of the 57th electoral district in the capital, where he participated in the process along with his wife, Liz Cuesta Peraza. Over 23,000 polling stations open all over the country so that Cubans can exercise their right to vote.
I believe that this is going to be an intense day, which we reach as part of a result of a process that had to do with a fair, necessary, updated and modern norm that gives rights and guarantees to everyone, to all diversities, to all families, to all people of all creeds. It has gone through a broad popular process that brought about modifications. Remember that we work with over 25 versions of this. I believe that this is a code that started, first of all, from the social debate, because we have been recognizing in the last years that our society has become more heterogeneous.
In statements to the media after voting, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel expressed his confidence that the majority of the Cuban people will vote in favor of the new family code.
It was based on studies, on situations and court cases, on the daily experiences of different types of families, on events that have taken place at a certain moment, on the personal experiences of each person. In fact, you saw the program we had on another day. I believe it gives a tremendous richness and a very wide range. It's not a process. I don't believe that the expectation is that there will be a unanimous vote. I do believe that there will be a majority vote. The majority of people will vote in favor of the code.
Cuban citizens highlighted the importance of the new family code for the good living of future generations.
The future above all. This is not a code for us. Today we are only going to have the enormous challenge of approving it and starting the steps of its implementations. This is going to be a code that will be fully enjoyed by the next generations, and that we already see the real transformation in our society that this new code of families will imply. So it will be a code for me and for my family, for the little ones at home, for those children who today are still children and don't vote, because it's the legacy that we are going to leave them. A family code that protects them, that transforms them, and that will contribute significantly to their full development as persons in a free country.
For me, it is very important because they are giving us the possibility of being part of the future of this country. We are giving the possibility to future generations to live in a Cuba with more rights, with more inclusiveness, and that is very important.
Let us review the contents and purposes of the new family code.
Through the consultation of September the 25th, the people of Cuba will decide whether to adopt a new family code designed to increase civil rights within the framework of the social transformations of recent years in Cuba and the world. The text, composed of 11 titles and 474 articles, establishes solidarity and affection as the pillars on which family relationships are based, and conceives the family as a union of people linked by affective, sentimental, and psychological ties without distinction of gender. The proposal emphasizes special support for women as the caretakers in most families and provider for the economic value of work in homes, as well as economic protection for those who work as housekeepers and caretakers. 4 types of filiation are contemplated in the code: natural procreation, adoption, assisted reproduction techniques, and bonds resulting from social affectivity, a concept that recognizes and regulates multiparentality both in birth and at later stage. It also mandates the creation of institutions to manage sanctions for domestic violence against vulnerable persons and extends rights to sexual diversities. Among the main detractors of the initiative are the religious sectors, especially the Conference of Catholic Bishops of Cuba, which consider that the text introduces gender ideology in the legislation and deforms the natural basis of the family. The debate on equal marriage in Cuba was also on the table during the drafting of the 2019 Constitution. At the same time, its approval was not possible due to the intense rejection of the Christian churches, among other social sectors.
Defense ministers of Colombia and Venezuela, Ivan Velázquez and Vladimir Padrino López, met in San Antonio del Táchira before the official reopening of the common border. Both ministers held a meeting this Saturday, just 2 days before the reopening of the common border, scheduled for Monday, September 26. This action is part of the agenda between Caracas and Bogota, established on July 28 in a meeting between foreign ministers Carlos Varela of Venezuela and Álvaro Leiva of Colombia. During the meeting, both defense ministers held a press conference where Colombian official Ivan Velázquez emphasized the importance of reopening the border and what it means for rebuilding confident relations between the two countries.
We have defined some initial points with a view, on one side, to the opening on the 26th, but on the other, to what it means to rebuild relations of confidence that will also be of great benefit in all this reestablishment of relations between Colombia and Venezuela, which will be of great benefit to the communities, both for Venezuelan and Colombian populations.
Meanwhile, Venezuelan Minister of Defense Vladimir Padrino López highlighted as a necessity the proposal outlined by the presidents of Colombia and Venezuela to reopen the borders.
We are not border peoples, we are brother peoples. The border line is for other purposes, but that border line has to serve to open doors because it is a geo-human region. We see it that way, where there is cultural exchange, where historically there is commercial exchange, where there is a migratory and historical exchange. So going against that direction, against that purpose that President Gustavo Petro has set for Colombia, and the President and Commander-in-Chief for Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, of initiating relations, reopening our relations, redynamizing our relations is a necessity.
Let's take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back from the South. With just over a week to go before the Brazilian presidential elections, the main candidates carried out campaign activities in the country's most populated state, Sao Paulo. Former President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva held 2 events in the outskirts of the capital city of Paulista, one in Grajaú in the south and the other in Itaquera in the east. In a speech in Grajaú, Lula called on the people to take to the streets to defeat Bolsonarism and assured that he will return to bring peace to the country. Also, the leader of the Workers' Party called on his followers to support Fernando Haddad, who is candidate to govern Sao Paulo, and expressed that if elected, they will make the most extraordinary peaceful revolution that the world has ever seen. For his part, President Jair Bolsonaro spent the day at a rally in Campinas, a city located 100 kilometers north of Sao Paulo. Bolsonaro attended his characteristic motorcade, riding a motorcycle through the city, and ended up giving a speech from a truck to his followers. In his address, Bolsonaro insisted on accusing his opponent of being a thief and using force, and called on his followers not to let freedom be stolen. In the meantime, this Saturday, the second televised presidential debate took place. Lula da Silva was absent. The debate, organized by the Brazilian television system, was characterized by a more measured Bolsonaro, who was the focus of criticism from the other candidates. Local media highlighted that Lula's absence allowed him to avoid unnecessary exposure after a bad performance in the first forum on August 28th. The next and last debate will be held by TV O Globo on Thursday, September 29th. And on that occasion, former President da Silva will be obliged to participate. In the Caribbean, tropical storm Ian advances towards the west of Cuba and is expected to become a hurricane this Sunday. According to weather forecasts, the cyclone is moving at a speed of 20 km per hour and with sustained winds of up to 85 km per hour. It could reach Category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale before hitting Cuba. Cuban authorities issued a hurricane warning for 7 provinces in the western and central part of the country. According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, the storm could cause effects in Jamaica and on the Caribbean coast of Mexico. The United States government declared a state of emergency in the state of Florida, where the cyclone is expected to arrive in the middle of next week. In Canada, authorities declared a state of emergency in several regions after Hurricane Fiona impact. After making landfall, the federal government decreed a measure for the provinces located to the east of the country. The meteorological phenomenon caused power outage in more than 50,000 homes in Nova Scotia, while on the island of Newfoundland, a person was reported missing after being swept out to sea with his home. In this context, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, expressed concern about the strong impact of the meteorological phenomenon on the Atlantic coast of the country. In El Salvador, environmental organizations denounced the contamination of the waters of Lake Suchitlan. The Salvadoran lake of more than 13,000 hectares, which also serves as a reservoir for a hydroelectric plant and is considered of great international importance by UNESCO, is in a critical situation according to environmental organizations. They denounce a blanket of plastic, including bottles, containers, and all kinds of plastic materials, in spite of the fact that workers of the hydroelectric plant as well as residents of the vicinity constantly collaborate to remove this material from the waters of the lake. The Salvadorian Minister of the Environment, Fernando Lopez, assured that every day in the country 4,200 tons of waste are generated, of which some 1,200 end up in rivers, bridges, or streets of this territory. A fire broke out late Sunday morning in a warehouse at the Rungis market in Paris without causing any casualties, according to the first elements provided by the fire department. 30 engines are on site and 100 firefighters are mobilized. The fire is almost under control. There are no victims and there is no risk of the fire spreading, according to a spokesman for the Paris Fire Department. Thick black smoke was visible several miles around in the middle of the day south of Paris. The firefighters advised via their Twitter account to avoid movements in this sector and to facilitate the passage of the help. The national interest market of Rungis, the largest wholesale market and fresh produce in the world, covers 234 hectares. It is located 7 kilometers south of Paris. And in Italy, the last hours of the legislative election, they are passing with an eventual victory for the extreme right-wing coalition Brothers of Italy. 51 million Italians were summoned this Sunday to renew 400 of their 630 deputies and 200 of their 315 senators, who in second degree have the responsibility of electing the Prime Minister. Preliminary polls show a comfortable victory for the coalition led by Giorgia Meloni from the coalition Brothers of Italy over its competitors, which would give way to a new government defined by local media as the most extreme right-wing government in the country since the Second World War. In these elections, 2.7 million young people must vote for the first time, while according to the polls, the sum of the abstentionists and the undecided is around 40%. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from Referendums joining the self-proclaimed People's Republics of Donetsk and Lugansk, as well as in the regions of Zaporizhia and Kherson, continue despite bombing by the Ukrainian army. The referendums are being held for the third day in a row and are expected to last until September 27th. According to data, the first days of the referendum, the turnout in Donetsk was 55.5%. In Lugansk, it was 45.86%, 45.86%, while in Zaporizhia it reached 35.54% and in Kherson 31.79%. This was despite the continuous attacks by the Ukrainian forces on population centers, which intensified after the beginning of the popular consultation in these regions. Authorities assured that the plebiscite will continue. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Venezuela, Carlos Faria Tortosa, supported the proposal of Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador to facilitate the dialogue between Ukraine and Russia and bring peace, and condemn what the imperialism has brought.
To facilitate this process, we reject all military provocations and economic sanctions that have been taken against Russia, as well as the hate campaign that has been launched against the Slavic people, because we believe these actions, rather than helping peace, incite the guns of war. In the eyes of my country, and I'm sure that a lot of peoples would agree with me, there are no good and bad wars. After the invasion by the United States of Afghanistan in 2001, trust was lost in the international community. What was being followed was imperialism and supremacism. We saw blood shed unnecessarily with impunity in Iraq, Yemen, Haiti, Somalia, Libya, and Syria.
The Venezuelan representative also stated that global hegemony is coming to an end and the multipolarity must prevail.
Global hegemony is coming to an end, and we need the necessary enthusiasm to build a new multicentric, multipolar, intercultural and balanced world. Let us change what needs to be changed, and let's have the courage to be reborn in new times and new challenges. Another world, another life is not only possible, but more than ever before today, it is a matter of urgency.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs of China, Wang Yi, condemned the blockade imposed by the United States against Cuba and declared that the One China principle must be respected without interference as a safeguard for peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
China will continue to work for peaceful reunification with the greatest sincerity and efforts. To realize this goal, we must combat Taiwan independence separatist activities with the firmest resolve and take the most forceful steps to repulse external interference. Only by resolutely forestalling separatist activities can we forge a true foundation for peaceful reunification. Only when China is completely reunified can there be enduring peace across the Taiwan Strait. Any scheme to interfere in China's internal affairs is bound to meet the strong opposition of all Chinese, and any move to obstruct China's reunification is bound to be crushed by the wheels of history.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, held a press conference following his speech at the 77th United Nations Assembly. Lavrov answered questions to several journalists and addressed the situation in Ukraine and the scale of Russophobia led by the United States and its allies against Russia.
there is this idea that Russia will inevitably face a strike, then I will look at that text, but I am not familiar with the United States and Ukraine already being allies who are bound by such a dangerous chain. As for the legal aspects of the West's participation in this war, well, even people who are only slightly following the situation will see what is happening. Ukraine is being flooded with weapons. Zelensky each day demands weapons from Germany or from Israel, criticizes Israel for not providing weapons in the quantities that Ukraine is asking for, or saying that they are not enough. And intelligence information is being provided. Satellite data is being provided.
The foreign minister also spoke about the referendum currently underway in the Donbass.
The referenda are being conducted on the basis of the decisions of the local government authorities. The conditions of those referenda have been published, and following those referenda, as I already said, Russia, of course, will respect the expression of the will of those people who for many long years have been suffering from the abuses of the neo-Nazi regime.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news program. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. And now you can also follow us on TikTok at the account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.